Hello everyone. A very warm welcome to the Hindu newspaper Analysis Townhall. Today is September 5th, Teachers' Day. So first of all, a very happy Teachers' Day to all the viewers. As rightly said, one book, one pen, one child and one teacher can change the world. So teachers play a very important role in shaping a child's life. So from today's newspaper, we're going to discuss the 5 topics. First one, GST reforms, as hailed by GST 2.0, or the biggest reform in the indirect taxation since introduction of GST. Second topic, in Bihar, the opposition has promised to raise the reservation from 50% to 80%. So here we will analyze 2 issues. First one, can we breach the 50% cap or should it be breached? What are the pros and cons? And second, should there be subcategorization in SC and ST reservation? Okay. Third one, should commercial speech be regulated on digital media? The Supreme Court has asked the government to frame guidelines to regulate the commercial speech on social media or the digital platforms. Fourth one, in the era of Trump's tariff war, what opportunities lies for the global south, for India? What are going to be the implications of the tariff war and what India should do? Then fifth one, NIRF, that is National Institute Ranking Framework, has been released. Let's start. Yes, GST Council 2-rate slab. Let us see briefly what is the thing. Earlier the slabs were major slabs 5, 12, 18 and 28. So what now happens is the slab of 12 and 28 has been removed. 99% of the item from this has moved to this and 90% of the items has moved to this. There's a new slab or the new tax of 40% has been introduced for 2 categories. Majorly the sin goods like tobacco products, and then the ultra luxury items like the yacht, ships, private jets, or the four-wheelers that is more than 1500 cc. Okay, so first of all, what are going to be the implication on the government's revenue of these reforms? As per the government, the revenue implication is up to extent of 48,000, but इसको हम ये नहीं मान सकते कि this is going to be the shortfall. Now we have to see how the consumption will increase, because when the taxes go down, for example, if on a motorcycle there is bike, a tax has been reduced from 28% to 18%, or say car, the tax has been reduced from 28% to 18%. Say the price of bike is 1.5 lakh. Reduction of 10% will lead to fall in prices by 15,000. This is a big amount. Same is for the cars. Same is for the TVs, ACs, and also the basic necessities. These items which have been listed here are important from prelims point of view. How? They will not ask directly कि इसको कितना % tax लगता है, कितना tax लगता है. Some questions can be like, all types of vehicles have been shifted to 40% or say 18%. No. Even if you see the petrol vehicles less than 1200 cc and diesel vehicle less than 1500 cc has been shifted to 28 to 18%, and rest of the items have been shifted to 40%. Okay, so there's a mix of this. Same is for the garment sector. Items less than 2500 will attract 5% GST, and items more than 2500 will attract 18% GST. Okay, so this is going to be the tax slab. Important is insurance services. The tax has been reduced from 18% to 0%. Tax has been removed. So this is going to boost the health sector. Second is fertilizer sector. Because the duty on the sulfuric, nitric and ammonium, earlier it was 18%. So what used to happen is inverted duty structure used to happen. What is this? First of all, for example, there is a fertilizer. In manufacturing of fertilizer, we require some inputs. Say for example, sulfuric acid, nitric acid or ammonia. If they are taxed at 18% and the output, say for example, fertilizer is taxed at 5%. So in the input I have given 18%. Now I'm getting 5% from the consumer. So the rest 13% amount is blocked with the government. Now government will refund it as input tax credit, but it takes time. So during the meanwhile, my working capital gets blocked. These are the issues with the inverted duty structure. It is a situation where the tax rate on inputs is higher than the tax rate on the finished good. So now this has been resolved because the tax slabs have been removed and these are the tax slabs. So items which belong to a particular group are taxed uniformly. Okay. So now these are the things major important from the GST. Other thing from this GST Council is opposition has called it GST 1.5, not 2.0, which is claimed by the government. Why? Because there are certain things which are still pending in GST, like petroleum products. They are still outside the purview. Alcohol, they are still outside the purview of GST. Another thing is GST compensation. No talk has been made in the GST compensation in this reforms. We'll have to look at the details when they will be released. How the revenue of the states are going to be impacted. Okay. This is about the GST reforms. Next article, very important article. It is important from the mains point of view. It is giving you all the things which are required to know about the reservation. Issue क्या है? Issue दो हैं. First of all, जो current में context हमारा चल रहा है, there are two things. First one, Bihar's opposition has given the proposal to raise the quota to 85%. Also, Supreme Court has given a notice to the union government asking whether the creamy layer जो OBC में अभी लगता है can be applied to the SC and ST. Let us see how the Supreme Court's observation has evolved on the matter of reservation. Before going into that, what are the constitutional provisions? Under what constitutional provisions reservation is provided? Under Article 15 and 16, which guarantees equality to all in education and public employment. But it gives the power to the state, that is the central government or the state government, to make special provision for educationally and socially backward classes. Presently, the reservation is 49.5 at the central level. OBC, SC, ST. Okay. First one, Supreme Court's observation. How all this issue of reservation has evolved since independence. First case came the Balaji versus State of Mysore. Supreme Court ने कहा reservation should be within the reasonable limits. It cannot exceed 50%. This was the first case where the Supreme Court said it cannot increase, nobody can increase the reservation beyond 50%. इसका लॉजिक समझते हैं बहुत अच्छे से. देखो लॉजिक क्या है? Article 14, equality. Now under Article 15 and 16, reservation is an exception. As per the Supreme Court, this is exception to the provision of Article 14, that is right to equality. Equality is the norm and reservation is the exception. So if exception becomes more than 50%, then it will become the norm. But exception cannot become the norm. So reservation should not exceed 50%. Reservation is exception and equality is the norm. This is called as formal equality. What has been laid down in the Balaji case, where the establishes the concept of formal equality. Okay. Reservation was seen as an exception to the principle of equal opportunity. Equality होनी चाहिए, वही norm है, लेकिन उसकी exception करनी है तो reservation दे दो, but 50% से ज्यादा नहीं. Otherwise reservation norm बन जाएगा फिर. Now comes the second case, Indira Sahni case. 9 judge constitution bench. इसको चैलेंज किया था, जो 27% रिजर्वेशन ओबीसी को दिया था, इट वाज चैलेंज्ड, बट सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि दिस इज वैलिड बिकॉज ये 49.5 बन रहा था टोटल, 50% मार्क को ब्रीच नहीं कर रहा था. Again, the court reaffirmed 50% cap on total reservation. But here is a catch. In this case, Supreme Court accepted that in exceptional circumstances, this can be breached. So this is a transition from formal equality to substantive equality. With the equality is substantive, it's not only formal. That is, reservation can be breached. Reservation is not the exception to the norm of equality. Okay, it also introduced the concept of creamy layer in OBC reservation. Third case, जनहित अभियान केस. इसका everybody knows, where the EWS की जो reservation थी 10% economic criteria basis है ये. It was approved by the constitutional bench. So therefore economic criteria was accepted as a basis for reservation. and 50% cap was breached because extra 10% is given for EWS. So in this case, Supreme Court accepted this. Now what comes is creamy layer was started for OBC in 1992. Now the Supreme Court has suggested that creamy layer should be started for the SC/ST reservation as well. But it is still under debate. Government has not come up with any notification, or the Supreme Court has also not passed any judgment. So these are the important judgments from the Supreme Court. Okay, this is the difference between the formal equality and the substantive equality. Exceptions to equality. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, in its Constituent Assembly speech, has also justified the need to have reservation for the backward communities. Now, what are the arguments in favor if we increase the quota beyond 50%? 100 में से 50% रिजर्वेशन उसके बियॉन्ड करना है, तो उसके क्या फेवर है आर्ग्यूमेंट्स? तो यही डिबेट है. फर्स्ट वन, सोशल जस्टिस. सोशल जस्टिस क्या है? सोशल जस्टिस का मतलब एग्जांपल लो, मान लो 90% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन बैकवर्ड है, उनमें 50% आप रिजर्वेशन दे रहे हैं, रेस्ट 50% में रिप्रेजेंटेशन बाकी 10% पॉपुलेशन का है, तो क्या ये जस्टिस है, सोशल जस्टिस है? नो. Social justice demands proportional representation based on population. If the backward population is say 60%, they should have 60% representation. So social justice demands the proportional representation. Second, caste census is needed to correct the underestimation of backward class strength. This is the thing. Because ये quota increase की demand mainly कहाँ से आई है कि caste census होना चाहिए पहले तो. हमें पता ही नहीं है कि how many number of the castes or how many people are belonging to the backward class. So caste census will help in knowing the data about the backward class strength. Also, this 50% quota basically ignores the centuries of structural disadvantage. वही starting point वाली बात है. If there is a race, this is the end point. One is starting from A point, second is starting from B point. B already has the advantage because वो लाइन में ऑलरेडी आगे है. सो दोस हु आर डिसएडवांटेज, सेंचुरी से जिन्होंने डिसएडवांटेज देखा है, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन फेस किया है, they are already at the back point, so they have to travel longer distance. So that is why this end point should be shifted a little ahead for them. This is the whole debate. Then comes the arguments against the quota. First one, it will violate the right to equality of opportunity, because right to equality is the basic structure of constitution. And if reservation is increased beyond 50%, reservation is basically giving special treatment to some people. Then if it is being increased beyond 50%, then it will breach the right to equality of opportunity. Second, currently reservation is say 50%, still large number of reserved posts are unfilled. SC/ST कैटेगरी से 40 से 50% वैकेंसी जो है उनकी ऑलरेडी अभी भी खाली है पोस्ट. तो इसको इंक्रीज करने से सब्सटेंटिव चेंज तो आने वाला है नहीं, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी जितनी सीट्स हमने उनके लिए रिजर्व कर दी है वही हम फिल नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. अगेन दिस इज द इश्यू. थर्ड, रोहिणी कमीशन फाउंड दैट, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट ऑब्जर्वेशन, व्हाई द क्रीमी लेयर और द सब कैटेगराइजेशन इज रिक्वायर्ड. ओबीसी में जो रिजर्वेशन है उसका 97% बेनिफिट 25% कास्ट लेके जा रही है. इसका मतलब ओबीसी में 75% कास्ट को कुछ मिल ही नहीं रहा है. Only the 25% caste, and these castes are those who are politically and economically strong. These are appropriating the majority benefits. That is why the subcategorization is required. This is the argument for the creamy layer also, because the benefit should reach the marginalized Dalit Adivasis. But how it can go against? Why again this argument? Vacancies are unfilled only. Even creamy layer, if you introduce, it will exclude the more people, and therefore the vacancies will be pending, like higher vacancies will remain pending. So these are the arguments in favor and against. These are the court's judgment, and this is the context. So this is a ready-made thing for the mains exam as it is. Let's move on to the next article. Yes, the context of this is जो स्टैंड अप कॉमेडी चल रहा है आजकल. व्हाट हैपेंस इज, एक स्टैंड अप कॉमेडी में एक स्पाइनल मस्कुलर एंट्रोपी एक जेनेटिकल डिजीज है, उसका मजाक बना दिया. दे मेड फन ऑफ दिस डिजीज. देन एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन रिप्रेजेंटिंग दिस डिजीज went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court in response has asked the central government to frame guidelines for regulating social media. Why? Because influencers often commercialize free speech, offending the sentiments of vulnerable group. Free speech under Article 19, right? Constitutional right to disseminate the one's ideas, one's feeling. But if you're commercializing it, still do you think you have the right under Article 19 right to speech and expression? That is the whole debate. Okay. First of all, here we will have a look at Supreme Court has asked the government to frame regulation. क्या इसका ये मतलब है कि currently we do not have any regulation or any law which can look after these things? No. Yes, there is a law. Laws already exist. There's IT Act of 2000 which looks after all these things. It establishes a censorship framework also that permits the removal of online content pursuant to court order. If something has been said, एक इंस्टेंस के बेसिस पे you cannot make laws, you cannot come up with regulations because regulations are already there. Just remove it from the internet. That particular speech you can remove it from the internet. So we should fix. We should not try to fix what is not broken. What is broken, fix it. Just remove that part. But the issue is not that big that you come up with new regulations. Okay, what it can do? It can pass on the chilling effect on freedom of speech and expression, demonstration effect. If somebody's right to freedom of speech and expression is curtailed, what happens? If you see on internet a person has been arrested for posting something on Facebook or say Instagram, what is going to be the impact on you? Next time if you post something on internet, if you speak something from your mind, you will feel that you should censor yourself, which is called as self censorship. तुम खुद से अपने आप को सेंसर कर लोगे and you will not be able to disseminate whatever you are feeling. So it will lead to a chilling effect on your right to speech and expression. So free ideas will not float. Okay. Second is protecting individual dignity. अब this is the demand कि उस बंदे की जो डेफिनेटली जिसको ऑफेंड फील हुआ है उसकी डिग्निटी को मेंटेन करना इज आल्सो रिस्पांसिबिलिटी ऑफ द स्टेट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. Now under Article 19(2), reasonable restrictions are mentioned like security of the state, also public order, decency, morality. Okay, but dignity has not been explicitly mentioned. Dignity can come with decency and morality, but on the basis of just dignity you cannot frame guidelines. Why? Because dignity lacks a precise legal definition. It will be subjected to then whims and fancies of the interpretation of the government. Okay, and also all the restrictions which can be imposed should be through a duly enacted law and should pass the test of proportionality. Test of proportionality, what does it say? If you are bringing a law, first of all it should know what is the aim of this. Is there any other alternative without imposing restrictions on the individual? Also, the appropriate authority is enacting the law or not. Okay, so treating dignity as an independent ground for restricting the speech, it risks inviting expensive censorship. Censorship will increase to large extent. Okay, also it will cut the freedom of comedians, satirists. Basically what they do, the comedians, satirists, or the poets, basically literature and stand-up comedy often confront society with uncomfortable truths. Yes, sometimes as a society, as a member of the society, we are not able to feel what wrong is going on, but through the satires they make us aware with the uncomfortable truths and compel us to reflect. There was a case of Congress MP 𝐼𝐸𝐻𝐵 in Gujarat where he was accused of inciting discord through a poem. Okay, then the Supreme Court basically freed him and said that under Article 19(1)(a), it does not only protect the agreeable speech but also the views that offend or disturb. You agree with my speech? Okay. If you do not agree or you are feeling offended, this also comes under Article 19(1)(a). Okay. Then again, second issue. If the freedom of speech and expression, say my right is there, if I'm commercializing it, then in Sakal paper case, what happens is in this case government come up with some regulations scheme. Newspaper कितने पेजेस प्रिंट कर सकता है एक पर्टिकुलर न्यूज़पेपर में और उसका कितना प्राइस रखेगा। मतलब 10 रुपए का न्यूज़पेपर तुम दे रहे हो तो उसमें तुम 15 पन्ने से ज्यादा नहीं प्रिंट करोगे। दिस वॉज ब्रोट, इट वॉज डिक्लेयर्ड अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट, struck this down because it was trying to curtail dissemination of news and circulation of newspaper. Okay, so this is the issue. Now what are the Supreme Court's observation on the speech which is commercialized and speech which is not commercialized? First case regarding IT Act, overall cases we see. फर्स्ट श्रेया सिंगल केस जिसमें 66A है जो आईटी एक्ट का, वो स्ट्रक डाउन कर दिया था एज वेग एंड अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल, क्योंकि इसमें जो टर्म्स मेंशन की गई थी, इंसाइटमेंट टू ऑफेंस और सम टर्म्स व्हिच आर वेरी वेग एंड सब्जेक्टिव टू द इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, सो इट वाज स्ट्रक डाउन बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. देन हमदर्द दवाखाना केस 1959 का, इसमें क्या हुआ था, दे यूज्ड टू क्लेम कि मैजिकली यू विल बी क्योर्ड. ओके, तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि मिसलीडिंग जो कमर्शियल एड है ना, वो आर्टिकल 19(1) के अंदर नहीं आती है, ध्यान रखना इस चीज को, नहीं आती है. बट दिस वाज changed in 1995 Tata Press Limited, where commercial speech is also part of Article 19(1)(a). Okay, because they spread information and empowers consumer. Now the current status is Suresh versus State of Tamil Nadu, where two types of speech. First, to disseminate the ideas, that is totally free. Then the commercial speech, this is also free, comes under 19(1)(a), but it can be restricted in the public interest. This is the current reality. Okay, so what is the conclusion? Safeguards can be there, definitely. We do not agree with whatever the comments have been made by the comedians, but at the same time, any safeguard which are being there or which are going to be get implemented, they must begin with strong review mechanism should be there. There should be clear respect for the constitutional value of free speech, and the ethos must extend to those charged with enforcing them. Those who are going to enforce those ethos, they should also carry those constitutional values. So this is about this article. Next one, Trump's tariff was as opportunity for the global south. इसमें first of all we will see Trump ऐसा कर क्यों रहा है, why Trump is doing all this. There are various reasons. Second, implications for India and what lessons India should learn from this. Okay, basically what the writer says, the current economic, geopolitical, technological crisis called as poly crisis, it necessitates a strategic recalibration so that we can insulate ourselves to forge a more equitable world order. इकोनॉमिक चल रहा है, जियोपॉलिटिकल चल रहा है, टेक्नोलॉजिकल पॉली क्राइसिस चल रहा है, मेक अमेरिका ग्रेट अगेन. इसके रीजंस मल्टीपल जो दिए हैं इस आर्टिकल में, ट्रम्प ऐसा क्यों कर रहा है. फर्स्ट वन इज टू political reason. Why? A propaganda is being there in the US कि globalization की वजह से what has happened, people have migrated and they are appropriating all the benefits, so locals are not getting the jobs. Okay, so there is a normal natural spread of hate against the migrants. Second, what has happened there is this unprecedented concentration of wealth, that trickle down economics is not there. ट्रिकल डाउन क्या होता है, बेसिकली कि ग्रोथ होने देते हैं, ऊपर के जो 10 लोग 100 लोग 1000 लोग मान लो कमा रहे हैं, विद टाइम दैट बेनिफिट विल बी पास्ड ऑन टू द कंज्यूमर और द नॉर्मल सिटीजन. ओके, all these things in these circumstances what Trump has done. First one, he has gone for the sanctions on 30 nations and tariffs on nearly 70 countries. Then he has blocked the trade. Then transnational organizations and treaties like UNESCO, the Paris Agreement, WHO, WTO, all have been made like defunct. Crackdown against immigration. But the thing is, ये सब कर रहा है किस लिए? Make America great again, MAGA. But what is happening is, जो टैरिफ इम्पोज किए जा रहे हैं, who is paying the tariff? अगर यूएस में कोई इंपोर्टर है तो वो पे कर रहा है ना गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स. How I'm paying the tax to the government, the exporter. So Goldman Sachs की स्टडी कहती है जो टैरिफ लगाया जा रहा है उसका 70% कॉस्ट, ओके, कौन करेगा? अमेरिकन कंपनीज एंड कंज्यूमर्स विल हैव टू बेयर दैट कॉस्ट. सो इन सब को चैलेंज रोकने के लिए ये जो हो रहा है, इसका अल्टीमेट बर्डन तो अमेरिकन कंज्यूमर कंपनीज पे ही आ रहा है. ओके, ऑल्सो व्हाट अमेरिका डज, इट्स सब्सिडाइज एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन, ऑल्सो वॉन्ट्स टू प्रोटेक्ट द डॉलर्स प्रिविलेज पोजिशन, ये सबसे मेन है। अमेरिकन इकोनॉमी क्यों सबसे स्ट्रॉन्ग है? जो वर्ल्ड आपकी करेंसी है, they have the power, they can print any amount of the currency they want. They want to keep that dollar's privileged position in the world. That is why they have, even Trump has warned against the BRICS currency. Even India is not a supporter of BRICS currency, but still they are very worrisome of this. So various contexts: China's ascendance in tariffs against India to pressurize Russia war, then America's perceived अमेरिका डिइंडस्ट्रियलाइज हो रहा है, यही इसी को रिवर्स करना चाहता है ट्रम्प। डिइंडस्ट्रियलाइज हो रहा है, प्रोडक्शन सारी चाइना में शिफ्ट हो गई है, तो ट्रम्प बोल रहा है कि वहां मत बना के, अगर तुम वहां से बना के मेरे पास सामान भेजोगे तो आई विल इंपोर्ट इंपोर्ट ड्यूटी इंपोज। यू कम टू अमेरिका, मेक डू प्रोडक्शन हियर, then you will not be imposed with tariffs. Okay, what are going to the implications for India? This is important for us. First of all, yes, there's no denying the fact trust deficit has come between India and US ties. The hard work of say 1 or 2 decades is nullified. Even if the trade tariffs are removed, how India can trust US for the longer run? US is quoting Pakistan again, सब कुछ दे रहा है उसको. Then US can downplay India's role in Quad. These are the implications which can be there for India. पाकिस्तान को सपोर्ट कर रहा है, क्वाड में रोल कम हो जाएगा. It can restrict American companies for investing. अभी recent data फर्स्ट क्वार्टर में अराउंड 2 लाख करोड़ के प्रोजेक्ट्स by the foreign investors have been stalled because of the uncertainties. This is going to impact India's economy, strategic and security. Again, double standard of US. चाइना पे टैरिफ नहीं लगाए हैं, जबकि उसके साथ डेफिसिट कितना है 295 बिलियन का, अपने साथ तो अराउंड 40 बिलियन का भी नहीं है, इतना डेफिसिट है. Why? Because India in the past have yielded to US demand, like India has stopped buying Russian oil from Iran or Venezuela. Also cut import duties on cotton. What is said is bullies only respond to strength. So now the message is clear. India is not going to be bullied by US. India will respond by strength. Only then bullies can be controlled. What lessons are there for India? What India should do? First of all, protect and defend the sovereignty. हमें टू फ्रंट कन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं चाहिए, so we have to manage China and Pakistan carefully. For that, we have to become internally strong first. We have to be assertive with US. We cannot be bullied. Now we have to respond with the strength. But at the same time, we should not unilaterally make dictates. But at the same time, we should not yield. We should not give up on our right or the demand of the oil, agriculture or trade interests. ऐसा नहीं है कि just to make the trade deal we will compromise on these things. No, we cannot. The diplomacy had to be recalibrated, obviously. Now symbolism have no place in the geopolitical order. We have to adopt the substantive multi-alignment. Multi-alignment as in we have to align with the European Union, we have to align with China, we have to align with Russia, we have to align with South American countries, Southeast Asian countries, Middle East. We have to leverage the multipolarity. We cannot be unipolar or bipolar. Okay, US China or US China Russia. Then we have to definitely go for the economic deal, because economy is what is at the central point for the global south. Push for equitable globalization, fairer institutions, United Nations Security Council, WTO, better fiscal space for developing nations. They should get the support from the developed nation or these multilateral institutions. Also, not just the international level, but domestically, we have to be strong at the manufacturing level. We have to tackle the high unemployment, private investment, poor R&D. Only 0.67% of the GDP spent on R&D, which is majorly done by the government sector only. This is a big thing. Also, trust building and certainty in policies to support the economic growth. So all these steps have to be taken by India to counter the issue. Now the last topic, IIT Madras tops NIRF ranking. Basically, this is the 7th year where this ranking has been released. National Institute Ranking Framework. IIT Madras ने टॉप किया है. But issue क्या है इसमें? Basically, even the education minister has highlighted this. Then the fifth criteria, there are 5 parameters on which the rankings are done. First is teaching learning resources, 30% weightage, research and professional practice, 30% weightage, graduation outcome, 20%, outreach and inclusivity 10, and peer perception 10%. कई peer perception की वजह से गवर्नमेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस की रैंकिंग उस लेवल तक नहीं पहुंच रही है जहां पर दे शुड बी देयर, so it requires a change in the parameters. This has been highlighted. So IIT Madras is at the number 1. ISC Bengaluru has topped in the university categories. IIM Ahmedabad in the best institution for management studies. 100 institutes are normally ranked in this. So this is about today's newspaper. If you have any issue, any query, you can ask in the comment box. I'm attaching these notes in the comment box as well as the description box. Now we'll see you on like tomorrow, Saturday. Till then, good luck, goodbye. Thank you.